Hello, good evening and welcome to Spotlight. It's been quite a break because MX24 had to bring you all the highlights from the AFCON. Now that that is over, we're back to regular programming and Spotlight is back on your screens. My name is Nwong Falong. You are watching MX24 television. Over the last few weeks, there have been a lot of economic discussions bordering around the stability of Ghana's economy. The latest update being a downgrade from Moody's. We're going to be examining the factors that went into this downgrade and exactly what it means for the ordinary Ghanaian. We have a few stakeholders who are going to be speaking to the issues that will be raised and the questions that need to be answered. But before that, let's go for a quick commercial break. And when we come back, Spotlight continues. Please stay.
Across Africa, nations are beginning to trade among themselves like never before, creating the largest continental market the world has ever seen. On the Single African Market Program, we will show you how products, services, capital and people will be crossing barriers as the continent and its citizens embrace a single market in a sustainable manner for growth and development to meet targeted UN development goals.
Congratulations, Your Excellency.
Get the latest update on all opportunities from the Continent's Trade House. Know the success stories and how challenges are being addressed. Africa is ready to trade among itself and the world, so are the people. The Single African Market is the voice of businesses that trumpets the vision of Africa everywhere in association with the Government of Ghana, International Chamber of Commerce, Business for Peace Foundation, GIZ, UNECA, and UNDP.
The Single African Market, this Monday at 8 p.m. on MX24.
Welcome back to Spotlight on MX24 television. As mentioned before we went on that break, Moody's has downgraded Ghana's long-term issuance, senior unsecured debt ratings to CAA1 from B3 and changed the outlook to stable from negative. Now, it's important for us to note that Ghana is not the only country that has been caught in a downgrade. There are other countries in Africa and in Europe and Asia who have also been downgraded, but this is, of course, from cycle to cycle. Different countries get different ratings depending on what the figures are showing. Now, the rating apparently reflects the woes of Ghana in fixing its liquidity debt. Now, you're just going to, we are rolling that on the screen presently so you can take a look at exactly what all that means. It's also attributed the rating to the country's ineffective revenue generation, that is Moody's. Moody's has attributed this rating to Ghana's ineffective revenue generation. The downgrade also reflects the increasingly difficult task government has, and let me just quote this. This is in quotes. The downgrade to CAA1 reflects the increasingly difficult task the government faces in addressing its intertwined liquidity and debt challenges. Weak revenue generation constraints government's budget flexibility, and tight funding conditions on international markets have forced the government to rely on costly debt with shorter maturity. That's not a very good line there. Costly debt with shorter maturity. Also, more importantly, we have to note that Ghana has rejected this rating. What does CAA1 mean? It has put us in the category of very high credit risk. It's not a very good position to be in. Government has completely rejected this rating, And I'll just quote a bit from what government has to say concerning this. It says, "We are at odds to understand Moody's assertion of the deterioration of Ghana's institutional strength, given Ghana's reputation as a beacon of democracy in Africa." I'm not sure exactly how this feeds into our rating, but this is the statement. "The government of Ghana is therefore completely puzzled by the decision to downgrade Ghana's credit rating to CAA1, despite the series of progressive engagements we've had with the team from Moody's," and this is from the Ministry of Finance. They explained that they've had a series of engagements with Moody's that have, you know, they were supposed to be progressive, and so they expected a different rating. They insist the quality of data supplied, as well as the medium-term economic and fiscal focus of the government, underpinned by key fiscal consolidation reforms, such as the policy decision to cut expenditure by 20%, as recently announced by the Ministry of Finance. Government has made all these statements, and let's just go for a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have our panelists join us to discuss this. Stay with me. So we've not only been hearing from the Ministry of Finance, we've had the President also weighing on this matter. We have a video of him urging African leaders to guard against the continuing subsequential power of rating agencies on African economies. And this is according to President Akufo-Addo. Let's hear from him directly.
To guard against the continuing consequential stranglehold of the rating agencies, which has affected the cost and access to capital markets for African countries, and has during this COVID period resulted in the downgrading of many African countries, exacerbating even more their funding challenges. Furthermore, it is of the utmost importance that the G20 leaders stick to their commitment to reallocate to Africa SDR 100 billion agreed to at the Paris Summit in May 2021. These issues have also been captured in the draft Assembly decision, which Your Excellencies will be considering and hopefully adopt. Chairperson, we need to work collectively as the African Union to reform the global financial architecture, even as we build and strengthen our financial institutions.
And that was President Akufo-Addo. Clearly, the rating by Moody's has created a bit of an unsettling situation in Ghana. I'm just going to speak to Professor Lord Mensah, who's joining us on Zoom. He's Associate Professor at the University of Ghana Business School. We're also joined by Dr. Daniel Anim, who's an economist, policy initiative for economic development. And also there's Dr. Williams Kwesi-Pipra. He's Chief Finance Officer at Valley View University. He's also a senior lecturer at the School of Business, and they are joining us on Zoom. Gentlemen, welcome to Spotlight, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Professor Mensah, are you with us yet?
Yes, I am, please.
Oh, right. All right, let me just quickly start with Dr. Enim, if you're there. You have been following the conversation, I believe. Now, what does the entire rating mean? Can you explain to us? I'm sure you can explain to our viewers better than I can. Dr. Enim, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please unmute yourself because we can't hear you. Okay, we're just going to fix
Yeah,
the
I can
line.
hear you now.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So I was saying, CAA1, what does it mean exactly? If you can break it down for our viewers to understand what it entails.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's just like the way grading is done in the academic sphere, where we have people scoring A, excellent student, very good, good, poor, and fail. They have their way of categorizing or grading economics. And by CAA1, what it means is that we are very high credit in terms of risk. Our risk level is very high. Very high means that there's that propensity, there's that a possibility of when I mean we, Ghana not meeting its loan obligations as and when they fall due. In other words, they are telling investors that, look, tread cautiously when you are dealing with Ghana, because Ghana's economic situation is such a way that if you extend any facility to the state Ghana, in terms of meeting interest payment as well as principal payment, as when they fall due, the economy or the country could face some difficulty in meeting repayment obligations. So basically, that's what it means, and that's the implication to the investor community, telling the investor community that, look, taking Ghana economic situation into consideration, in terms of liquidity and then the growth of the economy, they will have difficulty meeting their repayment obligations. And on that score, investors ought to tread cautiously dealing with Ghana. And what it means is that once this signal goes out to the investor community, two things are involved. Number one, the inability of the state Ghana accessing loan from the capital market, international capital market. And number two, where the funds are available, that will be extended to the economy. That will be done at a higher coupon rate. So basically, these are the implications in terms of how these ratings could affect the economies. And I think that's the reason which the finance ministry quite worried about the downgrading, and then they responded to it just to ensure to enhance our image before the investor community. So basically, that's what it means.
Dr. Neem, is it typical to find a country rejecting the rating from Moody's?
Just like any research finding, when you disagree with the outcome, you could interrogate and analyze the methodology and maybe disagree with the outcome. But that will not affect whatever the institution have done. For instance, this institution has been, in quote, accepted as a reputable rating organizations globally. And once they come out with any
Okay, we're having issues with Dr. Neem's line.
Rating. The investor community, in my view, will take it serious, on a serious note. But it's good that we are responding to some of these things. I think I'm of the view that the kind of things they do, they have indicators, and they have a way of measuring the indicators to arrive at this decision. There's something that ought to be considered. Once upon a time, these same institutions rated Ghana in a very positive note, and were happy as an economy. The managers of our economies were quoting it, Fitch, Moody, and the rest rated Ghana in a positive note. So if you could accept the positive rating over the period, and after they are giving you the negative impact, in the eyes of the investor community, that may be a very fair assessment. Okay, but it is good that once you disagree with any institution, there's a need for you to come out strongly and expatiate on why you disagree with the institution. But as it stands now, I can tell you confidently that the investor community take the work of this rating institution seriously than what we turn out as a nation.
Dr. Neem,
this is some of the implications.
Dr. Neem, I actually wanted to chip in there, but you just mentioned it anyway. In 2020, the same Moody's changed our outlook from stable to positive, and there was a bit of excitement around it. We used it in, we affirmed it, we praised them, and we attributed it to robust economic management. Is it not disingenuous, therefore, to reject the rating when it does not favor us?
That's why I'm saying that we have the right. I mean, we are anything that comes out is good that Professor Lord Besson is here. He's coming from the world of academia.
Okay.
Once they come out with any research finding, if you mark the script of a student and it's not satisfied, they ask for remarking.
Yes, you can.
That right is there. But the point is that they have indicators. These things were not just done qualitatively. There is a quantitative aspect of the analysis. They have their indicators, ways of measuring the indicators. Where you disagree with them, you look at it, and then we'll be able to assess whether it is indeed a fair assessment. But the point I'm making is that once upon a time, just like you said in 2020, the same institution rated Ghana in a very positive way, and we are excited about it. So this time around, if they give us negative, what it means is that they therefore means that they are doing a very fair job. It doesn't mean that they have put Ghana into a certain category for malicious intent. I don't want to believe so. Look, what is happening is that our economy is quite going through some economic issues. Number one, because of the COVID, the effect of the pandemic, and probably some of the economic decisions that we did not get it right as a nation. And so as it stands now, our situation is just too glorious, so to speak, and above the view that we should be able to rather to take this thing and then be realistic with ourselves and try to work it out. I'm so happy that if you look at the rate of recovery in respect of our economy post-COVID, it's quite progressive. Okay, we're recovering very fast. So there's a need for us to look at our economic engineering to ensure that we implement policies that will stimulate the economy so that next rating we may have a very positive outlook. So the debate as to whether there's a malicious intent, I don't want to believe that. I'm of the view. The only challenge that I have is that maybe the timing, because we all know that the COVID has had a very negative impact on most of the economies, including the advanced economies. So probably the timing, we may say, oh, we are all struggling, we are now.
But there are other countries that were also downgraded, so it's not like they zoomed in on Ghana alone.
Definitely. So the argument I'm putting across is that, to me, we should be able to take it in a very good faith and work our way out of this mess and ensure that we create a very prosperous economy for the benefit of all citizens. Once the economy is good and all the citizens know that this thing is good, whatever rating that may come, if it doesn't conform to what is on the ground, we may all speak against it. So to me, I think the finance ministry should take this in a good faith. If you recall, I mean, the one that by S&S, that Standard & Poor, gave us quite a positive kind of rating in respect of the work done by Fitch and Moody. So we shouldn't be, to me, we should take it in good faith and make sure that we work the economy out of this situation. Because once upon a time, we had a positive rating from these institutions, and if today they are downgrading us, then there should be something fundamentally wrong with the economy. And we all know that COVID has had a negative impact on our economy, and probably some of the macroeconomic decisions that were previously taken prior to COVID, we may not have gotten it right. And it is not always that you may get your policies right. So to me, it should be a wake-up call for the managers of the economy to go to the drawing board and revisit most of our policies. And then, in fact, it is against this background that the finance ministry is pushing for the e-levy. Because as it stands, the government is facing liquidity issues or challenges. Because this is the government that wanted to move the economy from taxation to production. So if the same government is pushing hard for introduction of e-levy, it is a clear signal. It is to suggest that we find it, the government is facing liquidity issues, and there's a need for government to mobilize resources as quickly as possible without necessarily going to the capital market to increase the debt stock. So these are the fundamental issues within the economy, and to me, they are factual, and we need to look at it from not from the political perspective, but from pure economic and professional perspective. That will help our way forward.
So, thank you, Dr. Enim. Let me call in Dr. Lord Mensah, Professor Lord Mensah. You mentioned something about marking schemes. Professor Mensah, you're from academia. When we have a situation like this, is it possible for Ghana to go for remarking?
Well, if you understand where the rating agencies are coming from, obviously you will not even make the attempt to, go for the remarking. What I would say is that nothing has
Prof,
changed.
let me just stop you
Yeah.
momentarily. We have an, if you could just enable auto rotate on your screen because you are upside down right now.
That is what I did, and I'm facing.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me see.
So yes, so we can have you facing correctly. Otherwise, our viewers have to turn upside down.
Is that okay now?
Yes, it's perfect. It's perfect. Sorry
Okay,
for that
right,
interruption.
right.
Please proceed.
That's fine. Yes, so like I was saying, if you know where exactly these agencies are coming from, you will not make the attempt of, contesting whatever they bring out as your rating.
Is there a possibility
Now,
of bias? Have they ever been biased?
Oh, yes. We've had situations of that sort before where rating agencies were being biased, some to the extent of taking bribe,
Oh, okay.
of rating, corporate bodies and, sovereign bodies so high for them to get whatever they want. But we've gone past that. I think for rating agencies like Moody, S&P, and then Fitch, they will avoid what we call reputational risk.
Okay.
They may not want to put their reputation online. And what we need to understand is that what the rating agencies do for African countries is what we call solicited, rating. We go out there to hide them. We solicit for their service. So if for nothing at all, we should rather have influence on them.
Okay.
But let me also tell you one thing. You see, if you look at the formulas that are used in rating, by these rating agencies, clearly those formulas have not changed. Those models have not changed. What have changed is the what we call it, the input to the models. The input in a sense that, we've had dynamics where we've been rated B minus with negative outlook and all those. Clearly, we've not been to this CAA situation before, which is more or less a step down to the B ratings that we're having, previously. And so, effectively, it tells you that there's something wrong. And what is wrong shouldn't be surprising, because we know we are not in normal times. If in normal times we're scoring a B, then abnormal times you don't expect to score a B for you to react. So for me, the reaction from the government circles rather create more uncertainty on the market, because the investor understands the rating agencies better than the government information they will put out there. I have seen the government press release, which is indicating that the rating agencies did not take into consideration the fiscal, responsibility measures that the government intends to do in the 2022 budget. Let me clearly state here categorically that the rating agencies don't use outlook data. They rather use your historical data, what has happened already, and the potentials to determine your economic outlook. So if you stated in your budget that you're going to cut expenditure by 20%, that you are going to pass a de-levy bill for you to be able to raise revenue, in the end, the model will not recognize this, because these are expected, policies, and they have not been realized yet. There's a difference between a policy that has been passed and realized its, purpose, than a policy that is running into uncertainty, and effectively we are more or less expecting whatever comes out of it. The rating agencies will not use that information to feed into their model. The information they used were historical, and they used that historical to determine the future outlook. And so if we have been downgraded, I will tell you that we are not in normal times. And so whatever data they use in feeding, the model, that those, information will also not be normal. And so we shouldn't have expected that B minus and the B plus that our politicians have been reacting on. The reaction rather breeds uncertainty. For me, we've seen countries going through transitions, and I have done some work on transition probabilities of, countries per their rating. And we're looking at, how long it takes a country to stay in a particular rating level. And if you don't take long to stay in a particular rating level, it gives a signal that you are doing well. So for me, I'm not convinced, and I'm not happy the way and manner we're getting reactions from the government, powers that be. Now, what I was saying, that the investor relies on the rating agencies more than the information that will come from the government circles. So effectively, we should understand these dynamics, and rather we shouldn't stay long at the C11. We put in measures to ensure that we lift ourselves up into the B column that we used, where we used to find ourselves.
Prof, when you say the investors listen more to these rating agencies, doesn't that mean something bad for our investors? Because this is a point where we are trying to raise revenue. And if our investors are wary, how are we going to be able to raise the revenue we need?
Well, we need to understand that the investor has been dealing with these rating agencies all this while, and they have reputation. Historically, we've never had only 3 rating agencies, but these 3 have come out because of their reputation that they put out there. So effectively, they pick more information from them than the government across the globe. Let me tell you one thing. You see, the information that these agencies rely on are more or less third-party information, and that information should even be an information that, under normal circumstance, you may not want to rely on. But let me tell you one thing about how the outside world looks at Africa. The data coming from Africa sometimes are not trusted. We do research, and I can tell you that for you to publish a good work, sometimes they look at the source of your data. And if it turns out to be a data that is coming from our environment, sometimes they place doubt on it. So, for the ministry to come out and be reacting, I believe that will rather create more uncertainty than, keeping quiet and understanding that this is a transitional process. Once we find ourselves there, we should work hard so that we don't stay long within that zone. We can easily move ourselves up, and then the investor will have confidence in us. You want to raise revenue. The revenue you want to raise as we speak now, because of the rating, you're going to raise revenue at a higher cost because you have been downgraded. And if you go to the market, I always use this as an example. If you go to the market, you're going to have very good tomatoes selling, and you're going to have bad tomatoes also selling to the market. Now we have investors who are yearning for, bonds that are not doing well, but they can get, very high, coupon rate from them. So definitely when we go to the market, we can raise money, but, we're going to raise the money at a very high cost, which will not be good for the country. And that is why the political space, they don't find it, prudent to go to the market at this time. So effectively, the signals are there. We are not in normal times. If during the normal times you are being rated B, don't expect that, in abnormal times like COVID era, you're going to be rated the same B.
Interesting. Thank you, Professor Lord Mensah. I am going to move into the variables and I don't know what to call it, maybe the fundamentals, the key indicators that Moody's looks at before it comes out with these gradings. But before we get into that, we'll go for a break. So when we come back, I'm just going to go to our stakeholders to explain to us what the key variables that went into this rating were. Stay with us.
February has arrived, and with it comes Ghana's tastiest celebration, the National Chocolate Week 2022. There'll be a full week of exciting activities to celebrate the growth and quality of Ghana's chocolate industry. We kick things off on Saturday, the 5th of February, with a health walk from Pidiase to Ayi Mensa Ibri Mountains at 6 a.m. Then on Tuesday, the 8th of February, we open the ports to the Chocolate City with live performances from Kofi Kinata, Kwabna Kwabna, and Ochiame Kwame, amongst other exciting acts. Join the train of daily activities at the Chocolate City in Accra, Tetekwashi Circle, and at the Kumasi Mall for the Ashanti region. The Chocolate City will run from the 8th of February to the 14th of February and play host to some amazing events each day, from a poetry night on Wednesday to an old school night and a cook-off competition between various schools on Thursday, through to a live band night on Friday. We take things up a notch on Saturday with the Chocolate City Family Day Out and DJ-led evening rave. On Sunday the 13th, there'll be a health talk on the nutritional benefits of cocoa. And on Monday the 14th, we close the curtain with the final concert. Join in on the excitement as we celebrate National Chocolate Week from the 4th to the 14th of February 2022. And make sure to visit the Chocolate City in Accra at the Tetekwashi Circle and in Kumasi at the Kumasi Mall. Hashtag EatGH Chocolate. Hashtag Chocolate Week Ghana 22. The National Chocolate Week is brought to you by Ghana Cocoa Board and the Ghana Tourism Authority. There'll be activities in all the other regions, so listen to your local station for details. The National Chocolate Week 2022. Eat chocolate. Stay healthy. Grow.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We are discussing Moody's downgrade of Ghana's economy to CAA1, making it very risky for potential investors. Not a very good outlook. Government has been kicking back against it, and we are asking some important questions. Before we went on the break, I explained that we want to look at the indicators that went into this rating. What are the variables that were considered, and exactly how were they looked at? We have Dr. Williams Kwesi Pepra from Valley View University. He's on the line with us on Zoom, so I'm just going to go quickly to him. Dr. Pepra, thank you for joining.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Fantastic. I mean, before the break, we heard from Professor Mensah. We also heard from Dr. Enim. But when you look at this rating, initially Dr. Enim was also talking about the variables. What are the variables that went into this rating? Are they the same as what we usually call the fundamentals in this country?
Okay. Good evening to your viewers, and thank you very much. Normally in credit ratings, in academia, there are only 5. We have something we call 5 C's.
Okay.
Of credit appraisals, and this is what we all use. The first one is character. So character looks at your historical performance. So I'll use to address where the finance minister is saying that in the future, which is 2022, he's going to reduce expenditure by 20%. Moody's in that assessment will not use a futuristic projections, because the history of the historical figures does not point to that direction. So from 2017 to date, we have all been noticing that our expenditure patterns have been increasing. So if the finance minister says that he's going to reduce it by 20%, it creates some doubt. So the first C for the assessment is on character, which is based on historical data. The second one is on capacity. The capacity looks at your debt to income, which is the main issue that we have been discussing. We've noticed that our revenues levels generation in the country is very, very low, between 13% to GDP. So Moody's or Fitch or S&P, based on the element of capacity, are saying that the positioning of Ghana is not very good. And they are saying that with the ratings of CAA1, Ghana stands in a very high propensity of defaulting. The risk in Ghana bonds is very high. So when they are presenting on capacity, they are telling us that if we want to make ourselves very lucrative as a country to get investors to give us money, we must work on our revenue generation. And
Dr. Pepra, is this because we have often defaulted? What would inform them making this decision?
So there is something probably that government is not telling us. But before we go to B minus, we had already suffered some penalty charges in default. So that signal, it's part of the report government themselves sent to Fitch and Moody and the rest. So that signal is already there. And also, once we defaulted once, and we have been charged a penalty for that amount, and then also they're noticing that our revenue levels are not coming up as expected. It is giving an indication that maybe we may default more. Let me put it in that way. So when they put it in that light, then it tells you that something is very, very wrong. That is why the finance minister is pushing very hard to get the e-levy passed, to go and tell the investors that I have a new stream of income inflow that will help me to meet all the loan repayment that we are facing.
Dr. Pepra, but this new stream, is it really big enough to meet the deficit in the budget? Because
I have already given the indication that what government intends to do is to securitize this e-levy amount, the 6.9 million. Government can use it to go and get concessionary loans from another place,
right,
and come and pay the existing debt off. And based on that one, there will be some freedom in terms of breathing space for government. I noticed that government has come out that they are not going to do that, but we have seen it before. Currently, Get Fund has been used in that purpose. The road toll in the past, road toll levy in the past, was used in that purpose. So if we ask ourselves, why should government be fighting or be pushing so hard for just only 7 billion? The amount is too small unless there is a bigger picture, which is the securitization of our loan. So that is why that government, to me, that is why I noticed that the minister will be going. That based on capacity, if he's able to get that new stream of income, he can securitize it. The third one that they fix all the credit agency who uses is on the capital. How much are you borrowing from the international market? It is very, very important. The fourth one is our collateral. So if you've noticed, Ghana in the past, when they are doing the assessment, they are looking at how much revenue are you going to get from gold, how much revenue are you going to get from cocoa. These are major commodities, and now oil. So they can say that, okay, the projection in the future will look brighter because they expect that cocoa production will increase in the country. So these are the metrics. And the last one is the condition, the purpose of which you are taking the facility. So if you look at what has really happened in terms of condition, also the qualitative side, from November last year to date, our parliamentarians are fighting over a certain law, e-levy. It is giving a qualitative signal to the investor community that there is a problem. And if you don't take care and you go and give your money to, say, a bond or Ghana, and they don't get this law passed, Ghana may default. So these are the 5 things in the books that we all follow in the assessment. And normally, before the rating agencies will do this assessment, they will write to Ghana, submit to us this information for us to be able to use them in our computation. So Ghana, as Professor Mensah mentioned, we have already given them the information, and it is based on the historical data that they have made the projections. So these are the variables. Unless the data submitted to them from the Minister of Finance was lacking something, then you can go and challenge them. But we all know the main two problems they identify is what all of us have been saying. We have liquidity challenge and we have high rising debt, which are the main two problems. So I don't see why these variables are known, but government is trying to go and fight them.
Dr. Pipra, but yes, the same government is also saying that despite the data that they have provided, I mean, they call it quality data, they also insist that they've had very progressive engagements with Moody's. They also say that there's a proposed 20% cut in expenditure. Shouldn't all these have influenced the rating positively?
Let me give you, in November when the minister read the budget, there was no line item that spoke about 20% reduction.
Okay.
It only came up when the minister had an engagement with the community just recently, 2 weeks ago. And a question was asked by a journalist, and the minister told us that there's 20% reduction. Let me ask, we all know the line items of our budget. Is the government going to tell us that it's going to reduce emolument salary by 20%? Then Dr. Lord Mensah and we are in private, so I'm not much affected. But the university lecturers already are asking for you to increase their
salaries
pay.
Already, yeah.
So are you going to reduce that one? No. The next line item is interest payment, which is much. You cannot reduce interest payment by 20%. The next line item is the reserve, statutory reserve payment to get fund and those statutory payment. You cannot, they are by law. A certain percentage of your revenue must be paid to them. You cannot reduce it. The only one government can reduce, there are two: investment and consumption. Investment and consumption. And most of us have been saying that government consumption patterns in terms of other recurrent expenditures have gone way above what we expect them to be in, and that is where the problem is. So if government can tell us that he's going to reduce that 20% from that amount, then we will have the assurance. But as I've said, based on character, the historical patterns from 2017 up to date have shown that revenue expenditure patterns have been going up, and revenue levels have not been increased. So anyone doing this kind of assessment will conclude that it is not likely that government will be able to reduce its expenditure by 20%. That probability is less.
Right. Thank you for giving us that very clear picture. I want to find out from Dr. Nim. Dr. Pipra is saying the lowest hanging fruits we're looking at that can be cut to reduce expenditure is investment and consumption. Is this possible from where you sit, and what exactly does it mean for the regular Ghanaian if government cuts investment and consumption?
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Pipra made a very profound statement that the idea to cut down expenditure by 20% was not captured in the budget, which is true.
Indeed, yeah.
It is
so it seems more like an afterthought that has been proposed.
Yes.
Here.
This is more reactive to the prevailing aftermath of the e-levy, So the possibility of government actually restricting itself to this kind of action is very low. The probability is very low. That is the first thing. And just like he outlined, and I agree with him perfectly, it's become very difficult. If you look at the expenditure profile, it's become very difficult which aspect of it the government is going to cut. Probably government may say, look, it's going to cut down the expenditure in respect of the executive, which I doubt he will do that. So government finds itself in a very dicey situation in terms of reducing expenditure and the commitment to do that. So I see this more like a political statement to fulfill all righteousness, just to find our way. But I think going forward, I have said it over and over, that there's the need for us to focus on the expenditure aspect of our budget, which is by making sure we have pre-audit. And by pre-audit, what I'm referring to is coming out with mechanisms, internal control mechanisms that will minimize a lot of waste in the system. By waste, I'm referring to financial malfeasance. corruption, and there's a data to demonstrate that this thing is ever increasing. If you pick the Public Account Committee report on the annual basis, so much money has been extended to government agencies that they could hardly account for. So if we can focus on that and also value for money projects, we ensure that a CD that is given to X or Y, it is used judiciously. These are some of the things that we can quickly do to ensure that we minimize the waste in the system. Because as much as you are expecting more revenue, as long as your expenditure increases, you will not be able to close the gap. And that's the fundamental issue that we have within the economy. Our expenditure is ever increasing, and it is increasing not because we are adding more value to the economy. We are increasing, is ever increasing because of what? The waste in the system, the corruption, and then a lot of manipulation, financial manipulation in the system for the benefit of selected few. So if the executives, and then by that I'm referring to the managers of the economy, will ensure that they can quickly block the loopholes in the system and assure all Ghanaians value for money. I mean, nobody is against the e-levy. If you listen to this,
is it easy to plug these loopholes? Because we've had many conversations around plugging the loopholes in revenue collections, especially. I think that's where the digitization agenda also came in, because we're trying to reduce cash handling and improve collections, so more money is coming into the system and less of it going out of the system through dubious means. Still, we are not experiencing the uptick in revenue collection that has been expected. So is it that easy for us to plug these loopholes?
To be frank with you, it is not that easy, but it takes a lot of leadership, commitment to be able to do that. I'm referring to political leadership, where you have a system that will ensure that, look, as a political figure, you are not going to protect any of your officials that may be found culpable. You allow the law to work. If we can create that system, and it is difficult because of the political system we are running. Once the person is coming from a political party, if the person is wrong, you will see thousands and millions, if not millions of people rallying behind the person. This is kind of a political culture we are creating for ourselves, and it's not good for the future of this country. So, for example, if I belong to Party X and I've committed I've perpetrated financial crime, you'll see thousands of supporters rallying behind me. So if we create this kind of political culture, then it will become very difficult for us to deal with the situation. So it all boils down to political leadership, the commitment to ensure that the way forward for this nation is by making sure that a CD that is given to X, a CD that is given to Department A, B, C, D, is used in a manner that will benefit the system. And any person or persons or group of persons whose action or inactions may perpetrate a financial crime should be dealt with the law. We have the laws. So if we can create such a system, I'm of the view that going forward, we will be able to manage our expenditure in a manner that we will not have to resort to the capital market anytime we need money. So these are some of the practical issues, difficult to deal with though, but we need to create a new philosophy. We need to create a new culture. We need to create a new political system and ideology that will ensure that we trumpet or we champion the cause of citizens, not political selected few. So as much as it is difficult, we have no options than to take the bull by the horn and do the needful if we really want this country to move from this current level to a level that all of us will be proud of.
Thank you, Dr. Name. Professor Mensah, if you're still there, I just want to come to you to find out. I mean, we've seen this rating that is negative, doesn't look good, high credit risk. It doesn't work for investors. E-levy is still trying to push through. We don't know if it's going to happen, if there's going to be another avenue of revenue generation. It's completely unclear. We have the promise from government of reducing expenditure by 20%, which is hard to believe because we haven't seen it in action. We did not see it in the budget, so it was not clearly an original plan on the table, which makes it difficult to understand exactly which angle it's going to come from. What does this mean for the regular Ghanaian? If, for me, for example, will I be feeling the pinch in the next few months?
Well, let me react a bit to the 20% cut by
right.
Well, the 20% is on condition that if they are not able to raise revenue as expected, then they can cut that 20%. But then we shouldn't expect this to be in the ratings because, like I said earlier, the ratings don't deal with, an outlook, or they don't deal with an information that has not been realized. Now, this rating agencies deals with a model which is supposed to run on data that is available, realized data. Therefore, they use this data to look into the future to communicate to investors. Now, back to your question as to whether, government revenue target is being missed, and in the end, the possible expenditure that is supposed to go on as a result of these yield levy problems here and there, how would the ordinary Ghanaian, feel the impact of it? Now, clearly, my position on the yield levy, whether it is passed or not, whether Ghana's government can function and manage this economy very well or not, still stands. We can manage this economy without the yield levy. The reason why I'm saying this is that if you go back into the numbers of our budget, the expenditure side, we can make room for the yield levy. And that is why when the government said they're going to cut expenditure by 20% if they are not able to raise revenue to that margin, I was happy. In a sense that, the deficit we're looking at now of financing, be it from the international market or local market or whatever means the government will use to finance it, is about 37 billion. Now, if you take 5%, let me assume that 5% of the 137 billion is what the government is going to, reduce the expenditure side for, if it comes true. That means that we'll end up having an expenditure of around, let's say, 20% is what the government is going to cut down the expenditure for. We'll end up having, an expenditure of around 107 billion. And this is almost the same as the revenue targets that we set for ourselves. Now, if you take this yield levy and then item by item on the expenditure side of the budget, let me break it down a bit. There are two items I will not touch. I call them non-discretionary expenditure. Expenditure that government hasn't got control over, but then very deterministic into the future, because government will be able to determine how much they're going to increase salaries across board. So if you look at salaries and emolument, government cannot touch that part of it, of the expenditure. That's about 32 billion and over. Interest payment. By middle of the year to the end of the year, government knows the next year what coupons they're supposed to pay and which debts are going to mature. So over there, I think it's quite deterministic. But there are other items that, for me, they are at the discretion of the government. They are at the discretion of the Ghanaian. And it takes sacrifice to forego some of these items. So let me take, for instance, if you take the capital expenditure has been increased by a certain margin. I don't have the numbers of it yet. And then two main items that I have been targeting on that expenditure side is, grant to other government agencies. Grant to other government agencies last year, we realized about 7 billion expenditure in that other side. That's the outtake. And then this year, we have budgeted for 10 billion, 3 billion difference, okay? Grant to other state institutions, last year, we realized about 15 billion, okay, 15 billion. This year, we're going to spend around 26 billion on this grant to other state institutions. The question I keep on asking myself is that within 1 year, what at all would these state institutions be manufacturing? What would they be doing for them to, receive that kind of expenditure? An increase of about 11 billion, because this year we are targeting to spend around 26 billion. Okay, so effectively that is too much. And so over there, if you give me the chance, possibly I may reduce that grant to state-owned institutions by maybe 5 billion. So a difference of 11 billion, I will leave 7 billion on top of the 15 billion that we did last year to, turn it around 20 billion, well, let's say 21 billion. Then you come to one aspect of the expenditure side, which is other. Other is a non-earmarked, expenditure. It is an expenditure that, has not been earmarked for a purpose, but then it's more or less a miscellaneous on every budget that we do. Last year, we put down a miscellaneous of about 7 billion. Now, this year, we are doing around 3 billion. So if you take that 5 billion that I saved from my analysis from the grant to other institutions, and then the 3 billion, just split it, you just take 2 out of it, and then add it to it, that would be about 7 billion that we are expecting to rake in from the e-levy. And so whether we go out there for the e-levy or we don't go out there, the economy can run. But I think what the e-levy is coming to do is to give that kind of political freedom. I call it political freedom of spending, so that the government can go all out in their expenditure spree. This government's posture since 2017 has been let's spend, let's spend, let's spend. It has been more or less an aggressive, posturing of the economy. But then which is very good. But then the unfortunate thing is that this expenditure is not building up into revenue generation instantly.
Right.
So effectively, that is where the problem is. And so if government is spending and the expenditure is not going into sensitive part of the economy that is supposed to, hit the ordinary person, like me and you, we will never feel the economy. We will still be seeing the economy hanging in the air. And so when you tell Ghanaians that GDP is growing, interest rate is coming down, monetary policy rate has come down to a certain level, inflation has been dropping, and Ghanaians are not still feeling it, it's not surprising. Because the GDP, the economic growth that we are realizing is government that is what? Spending. But the government is not spending into areas that the people can easily feel it directly.
Thank you, Professor Mensah.
You see, we're looking at a situation where government, will transmit the economy to the private sector. Government did not do that because, the private sector plays a major role as far as this economy is concerned.
Thank you, Professor Mensah.
So if you categorize all the 3 agencies and you take government, businesses, and individuals, and the economy is still being moved by the government, obviously it will not trickle down to the people.
Thank you, Professor Mensah. Sorry, we're running out of time there. I don't need to
that's fine. I think next time you have to extend your time.
Yes, we have to. Unfortunately, we have just 1 hour for Spotlight. Thank you. At least we get a picture of it. So it's quite a constraint over there. I'm not too sure how government intends to stimulate the variables so we can experience an uptick in revenue generation and regain investor confidence. This is something we're not completely sure of. I would typically go to Dr. Pepra, if you can just give me 1 minute wrap up, please.
Okay, so I think that, as we have been saying, government should not be fighting these agencies. Government itself, they have admitted that there is a revenue challenge, and we all, as citizens of Ghana, we want to address this issue. But the posture and the way they are going about it is where the challenge is. Nobody wants the country, as the finance minister said, if you don't get the e-levy, we are going to see worse situations. We don't want to get there. And then they must come out with a posture and use a consultative approach and not by force. So this is my last word.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pipra. Thank you so much, Professor Lord Mensah, for staying with us on the program. Your explanations have been very clear and very well appreciated. Also, Dr. Daniel Enim, thank you so much for your time. It doesn't look like a good situation, quite a precarious situation, but we will be following it, of course, and we'll be bringing you all the updates here on Spotlight on MX24 television. Thank you to our resource persons for being very detailed and for giving us the right picture and for giving some tips there to government. I'm sure they are listening. But that's the end of Spotlight this evening. As you can see, I showed up today in my red because over here at MX24 television, we have kick-started what we call the National Chocolate Week 2022. It's already in motion, and we're going to be bringing you all the highlights here on MX24 television. There will be a full week of exciting activities to celebrate the growth and quality of Ghana's chocolate industry. In fact, the next episode of Spotlight will be bringing you a full journey of making chocolate in Ghana, one particular company's journey and all the other products that they make with the rich Ghanaian cocoa we have. We'll also be kicking things off on Saturday, which we did on the 5th of February. We started with a health walk in Ebri. Some of you were lucky to join us. Also, tomorrow, Tuesday, the 8th of February, we are opening the pods to Chocolate City, where we're going to have live performances from Kofi Kinata, Kwabna Ochame Kwame, and so many other exciting acts. We also join the train of daily activities at the Chocolate City in Accra, Tetekwashi Circle, and the Kumasi Mall in the Ashanti region is not left out. It's going to be across the country. Chocolate City is also going to run from 8th February to 14th February, one full week, and we're playing host to some amazing events every single day, from poetry night on Wednesday to an old school night and a cook-off competition between various schools on Thursday. All these will be coming to you live on MX24 television. So, of course, please stick with us. There will also be a live band on Friday, and then we're going to take things up a notch on Saturday with Chocolate City Family Day Out and a DJ-led evening of rave. Now, on Sunday the 13th, there's going to be a health walk on the nutritional benefits of cocoa. I take cocoa every day. Do you take cocoa? You want to find out exactly what it is. We also have a Love Nest right here on MX24 television, and I'm sure some of you will be given a chance to come and find love in a very exciting way. But there will also be a final concert. Join in on the excitement as we celebrate the National Chocolate Week from the 4th to the 14th of February 2022. Make sure you visit Chocolate City in Accra at the Tetekwashi Circle and at the Kumasi Mall in Kumasi. Eat as much chocolate as you want. Very healthy, pure cocoa Ghanaian chocolate. The National Chocolate Week is, of course, brought to you by the Ghana Cocoa Board and all its partners. So eat chocolate, wear red, stay healthy, and grow Ghana. My name is Noong Falong. Good evening.